Hi there, and thank you for joining me in another YouTube video. Thank you for checking out my blog, Bankruptcy.blog. As always, if you have any questions, feel free to post them and I'll make sure to reply to you. So, what is the issue I'm focusing on today? It's a very important one. How is your lawyer acting towards you when you go and meet your lawyer? What are the issues? What are warning signs you need to look for? Now, this actually, I've always said this, and recently I was trying to buy a computer, and it just wasn't going well, no matter what. And then it was just one delay after another, one excuse after another. So I finally told the sales rep, I'm just going to buy another brand because I'm a big believer that what starts bad will end up bad. At least personally, there's been a few times in my life that something starts off bad and ends good. So I'm going to stick to that credo. And if that's how it feels when you're talking to your lawyer, the relationship, there's just no click. You feel, at least rushed, like the lawyer's not paying attention to you and everything else. He's not paying attention to you now. He's going to pay less attention to you later once he's got your money. So lawyers, like doctors, sometimes lack bedside manners. Lawyers sometimes lack desk side manners, whatever you want to call it. I get it. We're all stressed out. We have a million things going on in our mind, but that client is there to trust you, to believe in you. And if you don't make them feel comfortable, then realistically, to me, it's no different than buying a car. I will take my money elsewhere. So, are you rushed? That's one thing you would look. And, this is another thing. Do your research. Lawyers, like anybody else, I'll give you a long story short. My father had Parkinson's and dementia. If he lived another year after that, I'd be surprised. But a doctor convinced him that he needed hip replacement surgery. My father could barely walk at this stage, and that had to do with the Parkinson's. Luckily, a few things fell into place where we kind of figured out who the doctor was, and another family member of mine knew him and approached him because he was one of his patients and said, "What are you doing?" And the doctor let it go. Now, do you think my father should have gotten a hip replacement surgery? No. Are there salespeople that are going to sell you something you don't need? Yeah. Are lawyers going to do the same? Unfortunately, yes. People are people at the end of the day. And this is one thing that really bothers me. When lawyers come up with this theory on why you should file Chapter 13, like, oh, it makes your credit better. No, actually, it's going to take longer to build up your credit because you've been in bankruptcy for 5 years versus Chapter 7 bankruptcy. You can start turning around your credit immediately. I've had clients buy homes 2 years after their bankruptcy is done. Add 3 years to that, and you're still in a Chapter 13. So do your homework. And if your lawyer tells you to do a Chapter 13, and you can go through my blog, there's plenty of valid reasons, even videos as to why Chapter 13 might be required. But if a lawyer is just saying Chapter 13, and based on your research and everything else, that never crossed your mind, then I'm telling you right now, start getting another lawyer because some lawyers will push you to a Chapter 13. There's well published studies on lawyers taking advantage of people, pushing them to Chapter 13 where the fees could double easily. But they tell you, hey, I'll take your case with no money down. And you're like, that's a great deal. But then they sneak their fees into the bankruptcy plan, and your case is constantly getting dismissed, and they're constantly filing you, charging you $500 for to set aside the motion. You end up paying thousands and thousands of dollars when Chapter 7 could have wiped you out. So do your research. Most lawyers do free consultations for bankruptcy. Go speak to a couple lawyers. Get a feeling for what your situation is. Now, here's some of the things that your lawyer should ask. Number one, have you filed for bankruptcy before? If you filed 10 years ago, great. But if you filed recently as your lawyer, I want to know why. What happened with that case? I don't want to face the bad faith filing with the court. So I'm going to ask details on what happened with that case. Why are we here? Why didn't that case go through? Why has there been an increase in debt or loss of income? Sometimes an increase in debt prior to filing bankruptcy is completely rational, could be explained reasonably, and other times it's not. Other times it's just, let's jack up the credit cards, I'm going into bankruptcy. So if your lawyer doesn't ask those questions and they're not asking you why there's been a drop of income, are you purposely trying to qualify for bankruptcy, etc., it starts to beginning to look to me like these are lawyers that are just trying to get hired immediately And all they want to do is they'll deal with these issues as they come. Same thing with tax refunds. I ask my clients all the time, I don't care when they come see me, about a tax refund. You can see me in May. You already got your tax refund 3 months ago. You getting a tax refund, you think, next year? Oh yeah, I'm gonna get $4,000 or $5,000. Well, it's May. I want to file your case by November the latest, because come December, January, February, tax refunds, they're going to be asking for them and taking it from you. So I do payment plans with clients, but I advise them, if you don't file by such and such date, they take your tax refund. Too bad, so sad. I already warned you. So I don't care what time of year it is, because remember, it's like, well, what do I care if it's May and the tax refund is not going to be till February or March? Because you may not file. Things happen. You can't afford to pay your lawyer. And then all of a sudden in maybe December, you get a bonus. You say, I'm going to go finish paying off the lawyer. Now we're in tax refund territory. So they should always ask that question. A lot of times they don't. And you know what ends up happening? The client goes to a 341 meeting and finds out they're taking my tax refund. You never told me this. You're going to know if it's happening with me for sure. Transfers. Did you transfer anything? Your car? Why'd you transfer your car? To whom did you transfer your car with? These are issues that could be related to bankruptcy fraud down the road, or it could be having to push you into a Chapter 13, just because there's no way a Chapter 7 would work under those separation under that issue. I was getting ahead of myself. Separation. Recently going through divorce. Are you going to get divorced? Are you in the process of filing for divorce? Why? Because all of that affects the bankruptcy case. And a lot of times people get separated just to qualify for bankruptcy. And a lawyer should ask those questions because a trustee is going to ask them. And the last thing you want is any surprises. So a lot of times clients tell me, and by the way, I'm like the calmest guy. I take things in stride. But sometimes clients are like, you're being a little harsh on me. I'm like, if you can't handle this, imagine being at a 341 meeting with some of these trustees that are more aggressive. So I always tell clients, tell me everything. Even if it's bad, tell me. I need to know. We will work around this. So always, always tell your lawyer everything, good, bad, and indifferent. Household. Doesn't seem like a big deal, but if your son is back from college and he's working and he's contributing to the household, that should be listed in the bankruptcy petition. Is your son or daughter leaving in 3 months, going back to college? Great. But if it's filed within those 3 months, we need to know. You know why? Because the trustee is going to know. They sometimes do checks where they can realize who are the other people that live in the home. If your adult child's in college at that point, my child left last month or they're away for college, that's fine. But if they're there, they're going to ask those questions. Are they working? Are they contributing? Oh, they're paying their own car insurance? How come the debtor slash client listed that they're paying the car insurance? That's going to be a problem. If you're paying $200 a month in car, claiming $200 a month in car insurance, and it's actually your child that's paying for that, there's $200 left over. If there's $200 left over, guess what? We're talking Chapter 13. Simple little question, but it leads to issue. I had a client once who um, had his son. Actually, his sister-in-law had the address, basically her license and her insurance registered to his home. I didn't know this, so that's why its household is now in my bankruptcy intake. So at the 341 meeting, the trustee asked, "She lives at your house?" Because again, there would probably be contributions, if not the expenses on the household would increase. And he said no. And he says, "Well, what's with the insurance?" It turns out that his son put his aunt on the insurance to save money because he bought a sports car. That led to one question to another question. How can your son afford a sports car? And then my client said, I'm the one that gave the $5,000 deposit in cash. Bingo, we got a problem. Got resolved, but you know what? Could have been easily avoided by asking a few questions. Now here, and I just did a video regarding on how you can pay your attorney. I'll post that there. I actually did the video recently, and you can see how I go over some of the issues regarding attorney's fees, and on my blog as well. You can look into that. But was this explained well? Because I've posted before, attorneys say starting at $500, but then by the time you're done, it's $1,500. The little sign that says starting at, you can't even see it in the advertisement. But how do we get to that number? Is this simple and clear? Being in Miami, I had a lot of clients that only knew Spanish. Guess what? the contract was in Spanish. There was going to be no room for doubt with me if you were going to hire me, how much you were going to pay for your bankruptcy. I separated fees from costs. This is how much it costs to file. This is what the court is charging you, and the cost of the credit counseling and the financial management course. This is how much I'm charging you. I always kept that apart. I always explained it so there was no issues. There was even the way the front page was very clear on this is the total price. Let's break it down. And I even explained in more details what could cause attorney's fees to go up, whether it's issues of signing reaffirmation agreements, if I have to file motions, all that is there. You can't obviously cover every motion, but it just says if I have to file motions, then there's probably going to be more fees. Now, as always, as I close out every video, I always say the same thing. For you paralegals that are taking bankruptcy law courses and you're using my textbook in your schools and your colleges and universities, these videos are for you too. You feel free to jump in here and ask any questions in the comments, and I'll be more than happy to reply. I keep saying I'm almost caught up with my videos. I'm actually going to do a whole series of videos just tied into the PowerPoints related to the textbook to further elaborate on this. You can see the PowerPoints, you have the book, and then you'll have videos as well. Everybody else who's not a paralegal and you have questions, like always, jump on in, ask some questions. I'll be more than happy to answer them for you. All right. Any questions, respond, put it in the comment section below. If you read something in my blog, same thing. Feel free to send me an email, whatever works, so that we can continue towards this path of financial freedom. All right, everyone. Take care of yourselves. I will see you at the next video. Bye-bye.